Good morning, evening, or afternoon, whichever one's going on for you at this current point in time. Today we're going to be talking about drywall holes, and no, not the little small dents and little nail holes and little bumps and bruises. I'm talking about full on, somebody was playing catch in the house, maybe you and your husband or you and your wife decided to get into a little fisticuffs, somebody was drinking, whatever the reason is, y'all now have a hole in your drywall, got to get that fixed, or else the landlord's not going to be happy, and if you're the owner, you probably don't want holes in your wall. So behind me, we have a table full of stuff that you're going to need for the job. Typically about, $60 plus whatever the cost of your paint is. So we're looking at, maybe $150-ish, maybe a little more depending on how big the patch is and how much paint you need, but otherwise very reasonable. So let's get to it. Now, to make this as quick as possible, first and foremost, you are going to need some kind of filtered masks. You have all kinds of selections at your local hardware store, but make sure you have something with filtration, and make sure that you also grab a good pair of protective glasses in case any drywall chunks go flying while you're cutting or anything like that. You want to make sure your eyes are protected as well. If you have a shop vac with continuous flow, you can also be, cutting with one hand and sucking with the other hand to make sure that there's no dust in the air. Make sure you get the right HEPA filters for that. Otherwise, the real star of the show here is what kind of compound you're going to be using. This is all purpose. This does take about 24 hours to cure. So if you do want to go with something quicker, the quick set stuff might be done in like 5 minutes. You have stuff that's like 20 minutes. So if you know you're on the ball, you can go for the quick stuff. However, if you do make a mistake, understand the quick stuff gets super hard super quickly, and you are going to end up having to scrape all of that off and start over. So I like something that gives me a lot of maneuverability. I'm not in a rush, and I'd rather get the job done the right way. Next, we're going to need some type of joint tape, and this is 250 feet. So this is paper tape. If you happen to see fiberglass tape or mesh tape or anything like that, everybody says one is better than the other. Some people say they only use paper. Some people say only glass. Some people say only mesh. I don't care. This stuff is made from the same company. It would be idiotic for this stuff to not work if the same company is making them for each other. So don't worry about that. Next thing we're going to need is a blade, something to cut, right? I don't care if you use a utility blade. I don't care if you use a hand blade like this. I'm going to put a picture on the screen. Every company pretty much makes them, so just go with whatever. You want a nice, sharp, straight blade. Next, you are going to need, of course, a joint knife, something that's going to be spreading around the compound, right? This is a complete unibody stainless steel one. If you happen to have just the standard ones at the store, you can use these too. So just mix up your compound. I don't have a lot here, so a little small jar doesn't need a big pan or a bucket or anything like that. So if you need a lot, get out. They sell them in gallons, they sell them in quarts, they sell them in pints. So get what you need. You can use this. There's a lot more flex in these, whereas the stainless steel ones, they only flex around the tip, so these are a lot more consistent. If you need more flexibility, then go with it, but it all depends on the size and more about the technique of the person using it. They sell them in 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8 inches, so whatever you need for how big the job is for you, go for it. Warning though, the stainless steel is a fingerprint magnet, but if you're worried about fingerprints on your tools, then you probably shouldn't have tools. Next, we need to talk about how you're going to get that piece of patch into the wall and what it's going to be supported with. Most people will put wood inside the wall and then secure their new patch to it. So what I mean by that is, let's say you put this piece of wood in the wall. In between my fingers is around where the hole is. So picture this is the only part of the wood you're able to see, because this part up is going to be behind the wall. This part here is going to be behind the wall. So you're going to put a screw here and a screw here, or more, depending on how big the hole is, and it's going to keep this piece of wood to the existing wall. Then in this center portion, once you put your patch in, your screws here will secure the new patch to the wood that is connected to the existing wall. Make sense? Now you could also go this way if it's a small enough hole, and that is drywall repair clips. So basically, these are two-ended clips that hook to your existing wall. You put one of these screws through it, and then when you put your new patch into the hole area, this backing plate is going to hold that patch in while you put a screw through it. So you'll have 12 screws here. Each of these 6 clips that come in here are going to have 2. One going to the patch, one going to the existing wall, and that's what's going to hold it in so you can tape and mud and do your thing. So this is more for smaller repairs and for up to 1/2 inch thick walls. So if you have bigger walls like the 5/8, then this is not for you. So for those of you who are not going to be using the clips and you'd rather use wood because it's a lot more stable for you, then you're going to make sure that you get the right drywall nails. Now, for example, I know that I have drywall that is 1/2 inch, and I'm going to show you how I know that. But if I know that the wood that I'm going to use is, let's say, 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to need to add that thickness plus the thickness of the drywall, and that's how long my nails need to be. So for example, 3/4 and 1/2 inch, it's about 1/4 and an inch for the screw to come just to the end of the wood, but I want my threads to go past it to really secure that wood in. So I would need 1.5 inches. Since those are sold out near me and online as well, I'm going to go with one size up, which is the 1 5/8. Keep in mind that the longer your screws are, the bigger chance there is of them nicking electrical or water pipes or gas pipes behind whatever you're fixing. So please be careful. If you screw into electrical, that is a live screw because it is conductive. You touch that screw, you are going to get hit with 120 volts and it is going to hurt. So please be very careful and be sure that there's no electrical behind what you're doing. Please. That's your warning. I did not tell you to do this. If you get hurt or burn your house down or something, that is on you. Now here we have the hole. It is pretty gnarly. It's about the hand of one very angry Latino. We have a lot of drywall that is broken away in the back, and so you don't want to just cut the exact size of your hole and just put a patch that's the same size. You want to see where the damage is in your wall and cut down to where you see healthy portions of the drywall. So down here, I can reach down with my middle finger, and about the tip of my middle finger is where I feel that the tape is no longer broken. So I know from here to here, I would mark it. From here to the left, I see about 1 inch. So I would measure about 1 inch here. Same thing here, about 1 inch. Over here, probably closer to 2 inches, but I'm going to start with 1 inch just to be safe. Remember, you want to remove as little material as possible to get to the healthy wall. As for knowing how thick your wall is, if you have a digital caliper like this, all you got to do is open it up, feed the jaws in to where you see a nice piece of healthy wall, and you should be able to just close it up. And this one says 0.5. So I know that I have 1/2 inch drywall. If you need it in millimeters, you can also change it to that. I'm using inches, but it is 1/2 inch or 0.5 inches. So once you know that, you know what type of drywall you need. Again, moisture resistant or fire compliant, or whatever kind of drywall you need for where it is. Make sure you get the right stuff and you can move on. So we're going to measure it out in every direction and make sure you use a level. I have a laser level, but I'm using a bubble level because it's probably what you have at home and it's much cheaper to grab at the hardware store. So no show off. Everything is very simple tools. You want to make sure that if you have a line here, that it is completely level, and then you trace it. Make sure that they're all square, and we're going to cut out that patch. And so now I know other drywallers are probably like screaming at the thing like, why did you have to draw this architect? Why did you go to school for art? This is not supposed to be beautiful. This is just so I know I have a perfect understanding of all the material that needs to be cut out. So let's get cutting. And that's our hole. Now before you go any further, if you want to take a utility knife or whatever blade you were using to cut and just kind of scrape away any of the excess, you don't want any of those papers or any trays. If you have any of that paper kind of sticking out, you want to rip it or use a blade, kind of give it a bit of a taper just to give the compound something to sit in. So next step, we're going to clean this up a little bit and then get the clip set in so we can get working on that compound. Hole is now clean. Once you have your patch in, you're going to take these clips and just wiggle, and eventually they just snap off. So they're not meant to be they're forever. You snap them off, and then when you compound them on, it should be flat. If you happen to break them and they're still kind of sharp, you're going to have to get something, either needle nose pliers, twist them off, or get a little grinder and just kind of cut them. They should be nice and flush with the wall, so that when you bring in your knife, it shouldn't be hitting anything. It should be nice, flush with the wall. Now, I want to make this very clear. Please use a drill. Use your clutch settings. You do not want this thing on full power. You do not need this thing on super fast mode. You want to drive it in very slowly. Now you want to get the screws just under. So if you see that you're going too hard, don't do that over and over and over. Because when you shake the wall, if you can shake the wall and you see that the screw is not moving and the wall is moving around it, it means you've buried it, it's destroyed the material around it, and so it's not going to hold anything. So you want this on the lowest setting, or a drywall gun or a screw gun that's going to be as gentle as possible, and a variable trigger, as slow as it needs to be. Alright, they're all in. So before I go measure and go cut up the patch that's going to go in here, two things we got to do is mix up that compound, and also the test of the test is get your knife in here and really run over these things. You should not be able to catch on any of the material here or any of the screws. When you put your patch in and you put your screws that are going to go into these holes, you're also going to run the knife over those and make sure your knife isn't catching on anything, so when you're applying that compound, nice, even, smooth. So we got our handy dandy knife here. Zoom in action. And when you move over, see, not catching it at all. Same thing. Nothing. 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 Really quick for reference, this is a 6" by 7" hole. So 6 by 7, you're going to want to go with a 5 7/8, probably about 1/8 inch off of each side. Nothing more than that. You don't want the compound making up for, you know, a 1/4 or a 1/2 inch of actual material. You want it as snug as you possibly can, with enough space for the compound to really get in and make a bond between the patch and the existing wall. Now you want to make sure that your patch is sitting as deep into the wall as possible. Any kind of bulging outward, it's going to mostly be corrected when it's actually fastened to either your clips, or if you're using wood, it's going to sit further. If it happens to be near a stud, then obviously you would secure your patch to your stud and it would be a lot more secure. Just make sure everything is as level as possible. Next, we got to remove these tabs. So all you got to do is very carefully, let me just get you in here. All you got to do is take them and very carefully, you're just going to bend them until they snap. Just give them a good little wiggle wiggle. And after a little bit of back and forth, they snap off flush with the wall. Can you see that? So you can do that to all the tabs. Everything's nice and flush. We go mix up the compound, and then we're gonna get it slapping over here. Next, we're gonna mix up some of this mud. What I like about this is the pre-made or pre-mixed stuff, so it should be already pretty goopy. If you wanted it to be lighter instead of thicker like this, they recommend adding it in increments of tablespoons of water, and then you could mix it up, and if you like that consistency, you can add them tablespoon at a time until you got the consistency you want. Go slowly. So what we're going to do now, super light coat, then we're going to add our tapes around the edges, and then we're going to give this a nice generous layer. 24 hours, it's going to dry, it's going to cure. We're going to see if we need another layer or not. It is what it is. And after that, once we know everything is flush and completely sanded, then we can paint, and it's a job well done. Maybe. But let me know how I'm doing. I want that from you. Are you a drywaller? Are you somebody who knows you can do it better? What did I do wrong? Let me know. Alright, so we gave ourselves a couple of layers. Make sure that you can't see the tape under it. I have no idea how this is going to come out, so if it comes out like trash, it is what it is. But you're going to make sure everything is clear. If you have a textured style, they do sell cans for that where you can just texture it in, or, you know, there's videos where you can learn the textures. This one is smooth, so I don't have to worry about it. We're going to come back in 24 hours, see what it is, do some sanding, and then hopefully paint. If not, if we see that this is an issue, we could always add another layer of the compound and wait another 24 hours and then sand again. So, tick-tock, let's see. Now, even though this is supposed to be curing for 24 hours, I came back after 12 hours. I was a little impatient, and so if you look very closely, let me see if I can get that because it's super smooth here. There is in fact a little fingerprint or a little finger dent because I was tapping to see if it was dry in the middle. Do not do that. Also, for the most part, I did come back, I'm not gonna lie, off camera and just kind of smooth down. Started with a 240 grit and then, or started with a 120 grit, then went down to a 240 grit. So what I'm gonna do is just put in another small light layer just to kind of fill in this. And I also noticed one more thing. I also noticed that this little piece of tape while I was sanding down, it's kind of showing itself. So that can happen if you, one, sand down too much in one spot, or you don't add a thick enough layer. So all in all, not the worst thing ever. We are now 24 hours roughly from the original coat. About 12 hours after that, I did put a very light coat because I saw a bit of inconsistencies once it started drying. So you want to make sure this is as smooth and as slick as possible, and you're going to do that with your sanding. Right now, I got a 220 grit. If you need to go a little more aggressive, go 120, not 40, 60 grit. That's too crazy. You want to make sure nice consistent lines. If you're going vertical, make sure you finish the vertical or the horizontal, then go vertical. Whichever way you're going, you don't want to have inconsistent marks because if you go too deep, you're going to have those inconsistencies really show when you paint. Now, once everything is smooth, you go down finer and finer until it's nice and good. Make sure those edges are almost right aligned. And that's all there is to it. Mix up your paint. Make sure this is 100%. Take your time with this step because the paint's only as good as this. Now, I did go over kind of the rest of the wall for the most part, avoiding the toilet paper, the towel rack, that kind of thing. But as you can see, not horrible. There's a bit of shadow, but again, this is just the primer slash first layer. So once this gets another coat, it should not be that noticeable. What do you think for my first time? Yes, no, B minus, something like that? Anyways, if I can kind of do it, you can definitely do it. So that's how you patch a drywall. So until next time, thank you for watching and work smart.